Hello, my name is Stephen Redman and welcome to another episode of Pastor's Library. This is the channel where we talk about everything to do with theology books, books that might be on a reading list for a seminary course, for a bachelor's or master's degree in theology or biblical studies, and maybe just books that you've seen on the shelf of your pastor's office, or maybe, if you're fortunate enough to have one nearby, a Christian bookshop. So today we're going to talk about a new commentary on the book of Hebrews. And if you like what I have to say, please offer us a thumbs up on YouTube. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. Click on the bell, and all that does is it lets you know when we release another episode. So today we're going to talk about the new pillar New Testament commentary on the letter to the Hebrews. Now, this has been sort of a long time coming. Let me explain myself. There has been a really good commentary by Peter O'Brien in this series, which was only published in 2010. 596 pages, except we aren't allowed to talk about it anymore. You aren't allowed to quote it in an essay for university work because there were questions of plagiarism, and all of them were withdrawn and put through the mincer. Fortunately, I got my hands on one. Now, what does that mean about this book? What it means is it's actually very, very good, but the author was not meticulous with his bibliography, with his references, and that's unforgivable in academic circles. So we're not supposed to even admit that this exists, but some of us have still got one. But I have to say, a good academic would never quote it. I think you would probably get a comment on a paper if you included it in a bibliography at Bible college. So, although it's only a 2010 book, Pillar have had to go back to scratch, and they've got Sigurd Grindheim, Norwegian professor of theology, to write this new one. This new one is 814 pages, so it's bigger. It's just been delivered to me in the end of November 2023, just after I'd done a survey of my favourite Hebrews commentaries. Ha ha ha. Well, what I can say to you about this is I'm quite glad that it's come after that, because I haven't had time to go through this exhaustively, and I wouldn't like to have had to put it in the list. I might go back and do that in the months to come. But what I can do today is tell you a bit about this and an overview of it. Firstly, like all the Pillar ones, which are William B. Erdman's publication, this is not a cheap commentary. I tried everywhere and I ended up getting it for £45, which I think is probably the least anybody will pay for one in England that's new. Like all the Pillar commentaries, it's a good quality hardbound blue cover in a very pleasant slip cover. There's a lot of things that can be said about it in terms of its likely longevity on your bookshelf. But let's just talk for a moment about these 814 pages. 39 pages are bibliography. Now, I don't know how many times I say this, but a good bibliography makes a book, because at the very least is that it leads you on to other references and widens the scope of your reading. And when you're talking about a bibliography in a commentary on a particular book, what that really does is it gives you access to the vast majority of stuff that's out there for that book. It does so much research for you that you don't have to do. So I do commend this for its absolutely brilliant bibliography. It's got an index of subjects, an index of authors, and it's got around about 90 pages of an index of scripture references. So a lot of these 814 pages are more broad in their part of the commentary. There's a real chunk about the theology of Hebrews, an introduction to the book. There is some talk about who the author was, although I would suggest to you it leans towards a Pauline description. I would say to you that O'Brien was considered to be one of the absolute top commentaries when it first came out. I sort of want to believe in Grindheim enough to say that this may well get to that point. I would suggest that I probably need some more time with it to get a real sense of it. But Grindheim, who is actually quite well published, I only have one other of his books, which is his Introduction to Biblical Theology, which is sort of a primer on biblical theology. And to be honest, he's good. I found that one helpful, actually. Grindheim does make a lot of references to older commentaries and older Christians. I mean, for example, he has a history of study of Martin Luther, and Martin Luther gets referenced in here a few times. He is also fond of quoting from Philo. I just suppose my impression of only spending a couple of hours with this book is that there are a lot more references to older sources than you might get in, say, Cockrell, the New International Commentary on the New Testament, which I would still suggest to you on first look, this is not up to Cockrell's standard. But there's no question that this is a very well researched, excellent volume, and I think it's going to go a long way. My imagination is that in the next 2 or 3 years, this commentary will start to be really respected. Whether or not it will ever make my top 3, I don't know. I would need to work with it more, but I certainly think that it is worthwhile. For me, it was important to look at this after looking at O'Brien. What Pillar have done that is absolutely right is they have gone to a theologian who has a good reputation, who has a good range of publications, shall we say a safe pair of hands, someone who is well grounded and has a good reputation. And they have got him to produce something that is significantly larger, which I think is a good reason for trying this out rather than a slimmer volume. I mean, you can put anything in pages, I appreciate that, but I think the idea that this has got more detail in it, which it obviously has, is a relevant point. So I would just say to you that I think that this is a book to look for. Having recently done a video on my favourite commentaries on Hebrews, I'm definitely going to say to you, I don't think this will ever be in my top 3, but it might make it to 4 or 5. I would need to work with it longer, but I do think that this is definitely going to be a commentary that you will see referenced in the future in so many other academic works. And I think that Grindheim, and you can get a lot of information on Grindheim on the internet. You can read some of his sermons. There's lots of other things there. I think he's clearly a good man. I'm just not absolutely convinced that this works 100% for me. But I am glad to own it. I am glad to have it. I will definitely look at it further, and I would definitely consult it when I have issues with the book of Hebrews. So I suppose that's my introduction to the new pillar New Testament commentary on Hebrews. I hope that helps you. I hope that's interested you. If it has, please remember to give us a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe and click on the bell. And why not leave a comment below so that I can respond to it? Okay, I hope that helps you. Until next time, bye!